my name. You are listening to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. Again, the program is Focal Point. The network is AFR Talk, American Family Radio Talk Network. Honored and pleased to welcome to our Focal Point studios two frequent guests here on Focal Point, Monica Cole, who is the Executive Director of 1 Million Moms, and Randy Sharp, who is the Special Projects Director here at AFA. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Randy, let's start with you. We sent an action alert out regarding what the FCC was getting ready to do. Tell us what the FCC is contemplating doing and why we weighed in on that.
Sure, Brian. What they're wanting to do is relax their standards. Currently, there's a prohibition against obscene language on national television along with nudity, and the FCC over the last couple of years, they've gotten millions and millions of complaints. It all started with the Super Bowl, the Janet Jackson fiasco. And so that was called a fleeting nudity, and then we have fleeting obscenity, such as some of the live music shows that the Hollywood crowd does on national television. And they're saying, you know, if you use this word once and ever so often, then we're going to let it slide. Currently, there's prohibition against that word. There's prohibition against nudity, and they're wanting to say, if it's infrequent, we're going to let it go.
And understand the Supreme Court has upheld the constitutionality of that ban.
Oh, absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with the ban itself. It's enforceable.
Well, it was always enforceable. The FCC has had this rule in place for decades, and they just didn't enforce it. And then as soon as they began to enforce this under the Bush administration, then the networks filed a lawsuit against the FCC and saying, you never fined us before, why now? So the Supreme Court clarified that and said, look, the FCC can set their own rules. Congress has governed them to be able to do this. And now that they're enforcing the rules, the networks don't like it. But you know how politics goes now, the FCC saying, well, maybe every once in a while it's okay to hear the F word on broadcast television. It's never all right.
So they're talking about relaxing the standards so you could be watching. This is over the air.
Sure.
This is network television now where you could have the F word coming into your living room during family hour. You could have frontal nudity coming into your living room.
Absolutely, and they call it fleeting and non-sexual nudity. Well, nudity is nudity, Brian. You can't explain it any other way.
I think what they're trying to say, well, unless it's like repeated or deliberate or something like that. And then the question is, okay, well, how many times do you have to say the F word before we're going to weigh in? How many times do you have to show nudity before we weigh in? So it leaves it very vague.
And the other problem is you've got so many shock jocks on radio stations, thousands of radio stations all across the nation. And, these guys push the envelope each and every day. They're going to continue. So if they drop the F-bomb or the S-word slips out, they're going to let it go. And so we think the FCC right now, between now and the end of the month, Brian, they've opened up for public comments. They want the American people to weigh in on their opinion on this issue. And so we're encouraging people to real simply just go to afa.net, click on the action link, and you can fill out a public comment to the FCC. It only takes about 2 minutes.
Let me ask you this question, Randy. We talked about this earlier. How many comments were on the FCC's page before we sent our action alert out?
Well, right now it's over. Before there were about a dozen. I was one of the first dozen to do that.
So we send the action alert out, and what's the total up to now?
Well, about 2 weeks later, we're well over 75,000. I don't know the exact number, but I'm sure it will be well over 100,000 people have made a public comment to the Federal Communications Commission. This isn't something to sneeze at. The American people are speaking, and the FCC needs to listen.
And we know that other pro-family organizations like Family Research Council, Parents Television Council have weighed in on this, so we're not the only network that's responding. But I got to believe, Randy, a lot of those comments were from our folks.
Well, with the AFA Action Alert, Brian, that's the key. It's so easy to do. You click one link, you go straight to the FCC comment site, you put in your name and your comment, and boom, you're done.
Now, moving on to the other action alert we want to talk about today, let's talk about what's going on with the Boy Scouts. What's the latest wrinkle in that, and how can people weigh in on that issue?
A resolution will be presented to the delegates at the national meeting on May the 23rd, Brian, and this resolution was put together by a committee of the National Executive Board. These are high-ranking CEOs of corporate companies.
Like the CEO of AT&T's on this board.
Absolutely. Ernst & Young, which is Jim Turley. These guys are the driving force behind trying to put homosexuality front and center in the Boy Scouts of America. And so they produced a resolution saying, and here's the little twist to it, that we will not allow adults who are open or avowed homosexuals to be a member of the Boy Scouts of America. However, if you're 17 years old, you're a Life Scout working on your Eagle Project, and you decide that you're gay or you've been gay, that's okay with them. Here's the danger, Brian. Right now, and I was a Scoutmaster for 8 years. Each and every Monday night for 8 years, I took an oath before everyone to be physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And so to remain morally straight, I have to say as a Scoutmaster and as a Scouter that homosexuality has no place in the Boy Scouts of America, because right now the rule is all adults have to remain separate tents from the boys. But now the Boy Scouts are saying we're going to allow an older teenage gay boy to get in a tent with an 11-year-old who's on his very first Boy Scout trip. And that just opens up the danger of all kinds of things we don't even want to imagine. The Boy Scouts try to address this with Two Deep leadership. They've addressed it with youth protection training. But, man, to put two boys together and one of them being an open homosexual is dangerous.
In the same tent. So a homosexual scout leader, if they admitted him into the program, which this proposal would not do, but if theoretically you had a homosexual scout leader, he would not be allowed to be in a tent with your son, but a 17-year-old open, out, and avowed homosexual who's involved in the lifestyle, engaged in the behavior, would be allowed to be sleeping next to your 11, 12-year-old son?
Yeah, and what's not understandable is that there's a different standard of morality in the Boy Scouts if this resolution passes, and I'm really hoping that it doesn't. But where do you get two different standards, one for adults and one for boys?
I mean, that starts to get crazy when you think about it. We're saying that homosexuality is okay over here, but if it's okay over here, then why are you keeping homosexuals from being leaders?
Yeah,
and if you're keeping homosexual males from being leaders, then because there's something wrong with the lifestyle, the behavior, then why are you allowing that at lower
and there's
levels?
Still a danger because in my experience, we would go on a camp out and we would have 43 boys and we would have 8 leaders. And we're all in the same camping area within 100 feet of each other. So the danger exists. You know, a couple of years ago, the Boy Scouts motto was character counts. I think that was in 2008 or 2009. In 2010, it was timeless values. Now, if I look at this correctly, character still counts, and the values of the Boy Scouts for over 100 years, they're still timeless. And so I just want to make sure that the listeners understand this is not the file and ranks of the Boy Scouts of America. I've met hundreds and hundreds of scouters and leaders. This is not something they want. This comes from corporate CEOs who are on the executive board.
So what can people listen to our program right now, Randy, what can they do about this?
Yeah, on May 23rd, the national delegates will vote on this resolution. The American Family Association is collecting petitions. We will hand deliver those to the Boy Scouts of America on May the 23rd. We'll be there in person with our boxes of hundreds of thousands of petitions to these delegates saying reject this resolution.
And how can folks add their name to that petition?
Just simply go to our website, afa.net, click on the action link, and within 10 seconds you can sign the petition. We'll hand deliver it for you.
I want to bring in Monica Cole, Executive Director of 1 Million Moms. And Monica, you got a lot of moms out there. They've got sons in scouting. They've got husbands in scouting. And so you felt this was something that you wanted to bring to the attention of your network.
Absolutely. I've spoken with moms, and they are saddened by this resolution. And we're letting our voice be heard so that it is not voted on and it does not go through and pass. We know that as moms that we do have a voice, and I know my son's looking forward to it next year, but there's not going to be a way for us to participate if this policy is changed. It's the same thing as it's the same situation as a 17-year-old boy with a 12-year-old girl. You wouldn't do it. It would not be allowed. It's putting the same dangers out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for exactly the same reasons, the possibility of sexual attraction, sexual misconduct. That's why you just don't do it. It's just moronic and dangerous to do that, to put kids, younger kids, 11, 12-year-old kids in that kind of a position. So, Monica, how can moms, if they're concerned about this, what can they do about it?
Well, their strength in numbers can direct them to the AFA website at afa.net, where they can let their voice be heard and speak out. And for other issues in the future, be sure to join 1millionmoms.com. You can register at our website in about 30 seconds. That way you'll stay updated on what is going on in today's society.
And I want to encourage you, if you're a mom out there, sign up with 1millionmoms.com. Monica's group, Network of Moms, has really had a tremendous effect on protecting certain standards in broadcasting, really kind of carrying the mission, Monica, that Don Wildman started. AFA was built around indecency in network programming, and you're carrying that torch and doing so very capably. Randy, we got about 60 seconds.
Okay.
You know, one of the things, so you're optimistic that the rank and file scouters are going to vote this resolution down in May, but they need to hear from us to be encouraged.
Yeah, I do, Brian, because these are the men who go on the camping trips. They spend one night a week with these boys in a classroom setting, teaching them these timeless values, teaching them to remain morally straight. These guys understand what's going on. They're not these big CEOs in corporate boardrooms who say, well, we want to practice diversity, without having a real sense of what they're talking about. So I do. I believe it's going to be voted down. I don't have any idea what the margin will be, but we're going to be there on the ground encouraging them to vote no on the resolution.
You know, and us working against this resolution, Randy, this isn't just good for boys. It's also good for the Boy Scout organization. Just 20 seconds. What happened to scouting in Canada when they relaxed their standards?
You know, within a 10-year period when the Boy Scouts of Canada adopted an open gay policy, their ranks dropped by more than 50%, and they're struggling. They had to sell off camps. They had to lay off executives. They're hurting financially. They're just not making it. Parents want their kids to learn character, and so the Boy Scouts of America, right now, they offer that. And
well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you at the end of every program, we are fighting a winnable war. And as Randy and Monica both have said, we believe this is a war we can win. This is a huge thing because of the place that the Boy Scouts have played in our culture for over 103 years. This is a fight I believe we can win. Weigh in, add your name to the petition, afa.net. I want to thank Randy Sharp, Director of Special Projects at AFA, Monica Cole, Executive Director of 1 Million Moms, for dropping by. We'll take your phone calls when we come back. Focal Point AFR Talk. Stay with us.